Hi folks, Greg here, and welcome to our horror party. It's the holiday season again, and that means it's time for another Christmas-themed episode. Last year we chose the deranged slasher sequel, Silent Night, Deadly Night Part 2.
Garbage Day! Huh? No!
But if you want to get picky about it, most of that movie was shot in the springtime. But rest assured, this year's selection is just as bonkers as that one. Maybe more. We took a little hiatus earlier this year, but came out swinging with our Evil Dead 2 episode last month. If you're new here, or it's been a while, here's what we look for in a party movie. The best candidates are the ones that make you laugh and shout at the screen, whether the filmmakers intended it or not. Other criteria include quotable lines and outrageous scenes best appreciated under the influence of intoxicants. With that in mind, in each episode we present a new themed drink or cocktail recipe along with a set of new party game rules, so you and your buds can challenge each other's stamina, within reason, of course. The winner gets bragging rights, and a ride share back home if needed. That part's up to you. To give you a head start, our resident mixologist, Mike Conway, will show you how to whip up the perfect companion cocktail for the movie. Since this month's party pick involves a deranged killer snowman, Mike is conjuring a tasty beverage that'll help combat the seasonal shivers. Yes, we're about to subject you to one of the most bizarre holiday horrors ever made, 1997's Jack Frost. Not to be confused with the 1998 movie Jack Frost starring Michael Keaton, or even that animated TV special from the late 70s, although honestly that one's creepy enough to give anyone nightmares.
This is gonna hurt.
But no, this Jack Frost is a horror comedy about a condemned serial killer who gets exposed to toxic waste and transforms into a psychotic snowman, as one does, hell-bent on killing the sheriff who sent him up and anyone unlucky enough to cross his path. They say revenge is a dish best served cold, but this freak takes that saying literally.
Here's the wind-up and the It's a long drive!
While it may not have as many iconic scenes as some of our past party picks, Jack Frost has enough what-the-hell moments, outrageous kills, quotable lines, and hilariously sloppy special effects to get this party started. It's not exactly the gold standard for Christmas slashers, but this twisted holiday tale has grown an impressive cult following over the past couple of decades. It sets the tone immediately with a hilarious opening title sequence narrated by the director himself. Here's the part where I give you a quick catch-up course on this episode's movie. I always challenge myself to fit as much info as I can into exactly 2 minutes. There's not a whole lot to say about how this movie was made or how it became a lowbrow favorite among indie horror fans, so I won't have to rush this time. Just give me 2 minutes, starting right now. The idea for a snow-based slasher villain began with stage and screenwriter Michael Cooney, whose genre projects include psychological thrillers Identity and The Eye Inside. Cooney came up with the concept in the late 80s before pitching it to studio execs. A big-budget version was rumored to be in development with action director Renny Harlin behind the camera. I can't confirm that, but it's worth mentioning. Cooney was determined to get Jack Frost made, even if it meant scaling the budget way back. Since he'd never directed a feature before, Cooney wanted a more experienced filmmaker to take the helm, but even that was more than his micro-budget would allow, so he took up directing duties himself. When production began in 1993, winter exteriors were going to be shot around California's Big Bear Lake, which normally had snow on the ground this time of year. Unfortunately, temperatures were unseasonably warm during the shoot, and the crew had to create fake snow out of shredded cotton and styrofoam. The budget was so tight they couldn't afford to construct multiple snowman suits for the title villain, so any wear and tear on the suit had to be patched up on the fly. When it was finally released in November of '97, Jack Frost didn't exactly rake in big box office bucks, but it did well enough to merit a sequel, imaginatively titled Jack Frost 2: Revenge of the Mutant Killer Snowman. The first film has experienced a revival of sorts over the years, partly due to the big screen debut of actress Shannon Elizabeth, whom most audiences remember popping her top in American Pie 2 years later. It also gained notoriety after being acquired by Riff Tracks, the creation of Mystery Science Theater 3000 alumni Mike Nelson, Kevin Murphy, and Bill Corbett, who recorded a hilarious commentary track for it. Not bad for a flick about a wisecracking rubber snowman with a dirty mind, a sadistic streak, and an all-purpose carrot nose. Speaking of which, the film's most notorious scene, in which Jack does very rude things to Shannon Elizabeth's character before killing her, wasn't actually written to be that sleazy. But when Cooney and his editor were cutting the film, they realized it looked like Jack did something very naughty with his carrot.
Looks like Christmas came a little early this year. Well, hope it was good for you, honey.
Okay, now for the best part. According to the Horror Party rulebook, we need to get you started on the basics of the game, which honestly is just a variation on the typical drinking game, but with a horror theme.
There are certain rules.
The key to success here is to find a substance you can consume in small doses whenever the rules call for it. If you're sticking with alcohol, Mike has brewed up another diabolical drink to get you started. But booze isn't your only option here. There's cannabis, caffeine, hot wings, chocolate-covered bugs, whatever. It's your party, you decide, provided you're aware of your local laws, your physical tolerance levels, and those of your guests. Oh, and be sure to read this. Now that we've got the legal stuff out of the way, I'll send you over to Mike, who's going to show you how to make a melted snowman, a fiendishly festive libation that's very easy to make, and it'll definitely warm you up on a cold winter night.
Season's greetings, everyone, and tonight I'll be making for you the melted snowman, a classic take on the White Russian. Sorry, 1 second, sorry. I'm sorry, it's the wrong movie. But hey, maybe next time on a different channel.
Fine, if that's the danger of hanging out with you, fine.
Loved your working, Mr. Mom! You're the man! Nope, I'm the snowman! Alright, we're gonna start this bad boy off with 1.5 ounces of peppermint vodka, 1 ounce of coffee liqueur, 1 ounce of heavy cream, or if you're lactose intolerant like me, whoops, maybe a dairy-free creamer. And top it off with a nice whipped cream. And garnish it with a peppermint stick. I like to sometimes give this a good stir with my candy cane stick. Back to the show.
Okay, this looks amazing. As a matter of fact, I'm not going to wait for the guests to arrive before I hit this thing. But I've still got a job to do, so let's get to the rules for tonight's game. Once you've settled on your dosing substance, you'll need some rules for when to take a swig, a puff, or a bite of it, and in some cases, how many times you have to do it. Here we go. Every time a character says the name Jack Frost, take 1 dose. Whenever Jack melts into a puddle or dissolves into a mist, take 1 dose. When he transforms back into a snowman, take 1 dose. Whenever you see a character using a hairdryer, take 1 dose. Just 1 dose per hairdryer scene, that is, not one for each individual dryer you see on camera. Seriously, I'm not paying your hospital bills.
Blow me.
Whenever the deputies make an inappropriate comment at a crime scene, take 1 dose.
You don't reckon we should leave her up for the 12 days of Christmas then?
At the conclusion of the notorious bathroom kill, it's time to take 2 doses. That should be more than enough to get you started. Remember, it's just a game, so don't go overboard. This is supposed to be a party, not a crime scene. All set? Good. I'll come back after the movie to check up on you, assuming I'm still conscious myself. But right now, it's lights down, bottoms up, roll film. So, how goes it? Did the booze knock you down, or maybe was it the movie? Maybe both. Yeah, probably both. What's important is that you had fun. Yeah, Jack Frost is stupid, deranged, and sleazy, and it makes no sense whatsoever, and honestly, that's why we picked it.
I can see your house from up here!
If you overindulged, be sure to stay hydrated and get some rest, and most of all, don't get behind the wheel. Hell, don't even leave the house. It's a crazy world out there. If you've got some horror movie party ideas of your own, why not hit the comments and share them with us? If we use your suggestion, we'll be sure to give you a shout out on the show. In the meantime, cheers and happy holidays.
Somebody remember to put out the cat.
What did you say this movie was about?
Oh, it's great. It's about this guy who dresses up like Santa Claus and kills people.
What?
Hi folks, Greg here again, and 'tis the season for a holiday horror party.
Santa's back!
As you probably surmised, I'm trying a little something new for our December episode. Since we've already covered the original Silent Night, Deadly Night on our Revisited series, which you should definitely check out, I thought I'd take a hard left and party with the first sequel, which used to get much hate, but it's recently become a cult classic in itself, mainly because of one scene, which I'd like to call the scene that launched 1,000 memes.
Garbage day!
Huh?
No!
I even concocted a festive holiday drink that you and your horror-loving friends can whip up in no time, and of course, a little party game to go with it. If you're a fan of the Silent Night franchise, you already know the whack job appeal of this bizarre sequel to the 1984 original. Hell, even if you're late to the party, no pun intended, you really don't need to see the first film to get up to speed on part 2, because about half of the first one is just recycled to pad out the runtime of this one. That should make things easier on you if you start getting a little fuzzy midway through the game. Well, maybe. Your mileage may vary. Anyhow, before you start the festivities, I'll try to sum up just what the hell's the deal with this movie. First, here's a quick refresher if you're new to our series. Honestly, any fun horror film is a good candidate for a horror party, especially if there are plenty of outrageous moments to keep you and your guests on your toes. Adding a party game just jacks it up to another level, and I'm here to help you with that too. Of course, you don't have to follow my rules or my recipes. They're really just there for inspiration. Use your imagination and go wild. It's garbage day! For the last couple of episodes, I picked movies that included actual party scenes, and I guess this one does too, sort of, but that's not the point. See, this movie is just all kinds of crazy, and when you fire it up, it should keep the whole room in stitches, if for no other reason than the pure whiskey tango foxtrot factor. Even if you don't celebrate Christmas, or if you just really hate the holiday season, which I totally understand, you could still have big fun with this movie, because this particular movie hates Christmas more than Scrooge and the Grinch cooking meth in a toy store. Also, take note, I'm gonna spoil the hell out of this movie, and by default I'll be spoiling the first one too, so consider this your first and only warning. Now for a little background on SNDN2, as I like to call it. As always, I'll go quickly through this bit. Just give me 2 minutes to bring you up to speed. If you already know this stuff, all you have to do is skip forward 120 seconds and you're all set. I'm even gonna clock myself, so let's get started right now. The story behind Silent Night 2 is pretty weird. It's an obvious cash-in on the success of its predecessor, which got a big boost from the well-known controversy surrounding its theatrical release. As the story goes, a group of so-called concerned parents claimed the movie's ad campaign was traumatizing their children by making them believe Santa Claus was going to murder them on Christmas Eve. Although I think a lot of that publicity was encouraged or maybe even created by the film's promoters. Although it did get pulled from theaters after that, it grew a fan base in the mid-'80s thanks to its home video release. The producer's original plan was to put out an expanded version of the first film, but after the new scenes were written, they realized they had the makings of a sequel. They didn't have much budget to work with, so to save time and money, they edited about 40 minutes of the original film into this one in the form of flashbacks, taking up almost half its runtime. And that's not counting the 10-minute end title crawl that lists the cast members from both movies. Lee Harry is credited as the director, but his background was in editing, which made it easy for him to Frankenstein these two stories together. He was actually pleased with how it all turned out, even before it became a campy cult classic. That's Lee Harry right there, by the way. The sequel follows the character of Ricky Caldwell, who was traumatized as a child by his brother Billy's Christmas massacre as an adult, and subsequent death. Ricky's story is shuffled into the original plotline like a deck of cards, revealing his own psychotic break and setting up his escape from a mental hospital in the final act, leading to a brief but memorable Santa suit slaughter spree of his own. And as if that wasn't weird enough, Part 2 wasn't even released during the holiday season, unless you count Easter, and after horror icon Bill Moseley put his unique stamp on the role of Ricky for the third film, the fourth and fifth installments just tossed out the story altogether and slapped the Silent Night handle on a couple of otherwise unrelated movies. At least Scream Factory managed to clean up the flashback footage for this one because they'd already remastered it for their Blu-ray edition of the first film. It may be a hot mess of a sequel, but at least it looks good now, so there's that.
Punishment. Discipline. Eat shit.
Okay, now it's time to choose our preferred intoxicant. Now, I'm not trying to drive you toward any particular poison or any substance for that matter. You don't have to get all crunked out to enjoy this movie is what I'm saying, but if you're so inclined, it does help a little bit. Substances include, but are not limited to, beer, wine, cocktails, straight liquor, cannabis, caffeine, or even a shot of hot sauce for the endorphin rush. Of course, with any of these, it's important to know your limitations as well as your local laws. We want you to have fun, not spend your holidays in the emergency room or jail. The main thing is to find a substance you can consume in a measured dose, so you always know how much you're consuming whenever the rules call for it.
Let's jump ahead. Let's.
Okay, now that we've all established our dosage, it's time to play. Okay, here we go. Every time you see the psychologist messing with that damn reel-to-reel recorder, take 1 dose. I was gonna say take a dose every time you see Billy's eyebrows go up and down dramatically, but you would have to get your blood replaced by the time this game was over. When you hear the words naughty or punish, take 1 dose. Whenever you see a red car,
Red car. Good point.
take a dose. When Ricky goes on his neighborhood shooting spree, take 1 dose per gunshot, which of course leads me to the highlight of the evening, when Ricky says this immortal line,
Garbage day!
Be sure to say that line out loud before taking 2 doses. Anyone who doesn't must take a penalty dose for not keeping up.
Going too fast for you, Doc.
Now I'm going to show you what I'm dosing for tonight's game. Start with your basic eggnog, and I would recommend a good spiced rum, Kahlua or a similar coffee liqueur, whipped cream, and some crushed peppermint or candy canes. Use a standard cocktail glass and a shot glass for measuring. So you start with a shot of rum, then you take a shot of Kahlua, and then you top off your cocktail glass with the eggnog. Then take some of those peppermint sprinkles in a very fine powder and just mix them in there. And you could just have fun with this part. You could put some more of the crushed peppermint on top, and of course a little sprinkle of nutmeg. And what the hell, I'm gonna put a couple of gummy worms in there because, you know, it's garbage, right? But what's really cool is to use a candy cane as a swizzle stick. So that's it. Garbage nog, bitches.
Let's go! Start the movie! Movie!
Oh, great.
All right, chill. We're about to get started here, okay? It's showtime. And I'll be playing right along with you as you revel in the complete insanity that is Silent Night, Deadly Night Part 2.
Naughty.
Be sure to come back for some aftercare as well as my final thoughts.
I'm beginning to like this picture.
But for now, it's lights down, bottoms up, roll film.
Let's all go to the...
This movie's so bogus. It really is.
Now, it does take a lot of chemical incentive to be able to make it all the way through this movie, but I survived, and I'm assuming that since you're still watching this, you're still conscious. Pretty much everything about this movie screams quick cash grab, but it does pack in a lot of laughs. Many of them intended, a lot of them not so much, but I still get a giggle out of it, and for a lot of fans, it's part of an annual holiday tradition. Maybe it'll become one of yours too. Then again, maybe you'll hate me for even suggesting it. I hope not, or you might end up on my naughty list. So, got any ideas for our next party pick? We are totally open to suggestions. In fact, we welcome them. So take to the comments and let us know what you want to party with next. If you don't, we'll just try to surprise you. And who doesn't love a surprise party? Well, besides me. Actually, forget I said that.